Hey everybody, welcome back to the You're Not Broken podcast, and this is the best thing I've done in like 7 years on this podcast. So I am with friends who are also urologists, who are also obsessed with Heated Rivalry, and this is the first of hopefully 6 episodes. So welcome everybody, Dr. Rachel Rubin, Dr. Ashley Winter, Dr. Joshua Gonzalez. Thank you for podcasting about Heated Rivalry with me.
Woohoo! Can't wait.
Yay!
I love that we're here. This is so exciting.
I feel like you know when you realize like you finally adulted successfully, and like for a lot of people that's like a certain amount of dollars in the bank, and I'm like, I'm my own boss. Nobody is telling me I can't do this. I have a huge podcast. I have friends who want a podcast about Heated Rivalry, and I'm having fun. Like I feel like I'm like adult level 10 at this
You've
point.
made it.
I think I've been a middle school boy the entire time, so this just makes perfect sense for my,
This is the
I love
most common thing I'm now prescribing for low libido, and I feel like I'm winning at adulting because I'm like, you're paying me to tell you to watch this TV show, and they're like,
It's true. Whether
"What?
they're
What
20s,
is this?"
40s,
And I'm like,
60s,
"Oh."
70s, everyone's getting Heated
Oh, yeah.
Rivalry as a prescription.
Yeah.
What's
Oh,
the
yeah.
feedback?
Oh, yeah.
Dude, Ashley, what's the feedback been? Have you seen people in like, they followed up with your prescription?
I have not seen anybody in follow up since my prescription,
'Cause
so
there's-
this is
They're still
very
watching it. That's
important.
why.
Or
They're
they
like, she won't see me
all
back.
all of their sexual issues have resolved and they no longer need my help. It's basically
I've been putting it in our newsletter like regularly, and
It's in your newsletter?
as HRT, Heated Rivalry Therapy, and instead of hormone
That's
replacement
funny.
therapy. And so people are coming in having watched it because I told them to watch it. I had one day in clinic where literally a 20-year-old, a 40-year-old, and a 70-year-old, and I had all the same conversations about how deliciously wonderful it is. And it was the most joyful clinic day.
Are these male patients, female patients, both? Like, who
Female,
are you-
mostly straight women
Yeah.
that I'm
Yes.
having these conversations with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
And
love
what
it.
are they saying? Like, is like,
Yeah, have you
turning
seen
them on
anybody
about it?
back in follow up?
Yeah, Josh, what are you seeing in your population?
I mean, most gay men that I see have already seen it. I think it sort of hit in the gay universe like pretty quickly because it premiered like the weekend of Thanksgiving. I'm sure there were a lot of people home with like their families, like, get me out of here. What do I do? So it was actually like a perfect time for them to drop the show. That's when I started watching it because people were already in my circles kind of like, have you seen this like really sexy show on HBO? And so the sex definitely was the selling point. And I don't know. I mean, I got like so obsessed with the show for the non-sexual stuff. Like, I think they did a great job. Like Jacob Tierney did a great job of like grabbing your attention and being like, oh, this is hot. And then making you cry by like episode 3.
And then he made you feel something.
Exactly. Yeah. But
It's
there,
just
I mean, I would say
everything.
most gay men are big fans of the show.
I will say about feedback, not my patients coming back, but I talk with, right? So I sublet office space from some pelvic floor physical therapists, and we also have a front office person. And these are also straight women. And their feedback is it makes them want to have gay man sex. That's what their feedback is. Like, not like it makes me necessarily hornier for my partner, but I just want to be one of those two guys living
Yeah.
their life and having their passion and having their love story. I think we all need to like, it's tough to not want to just like be and live in the world of this.
But this is a question I
Potent
asked
emotion.
Josh when I saw Josh at ISWISH, and Kelly should make us all know how we all know each other. We are all urologists, every single one of us. But I asked Josh this. I said, is it gay sex, or is it gay sex written by a woman, like written by a woman of what we want gay sex to be like? And that's, that's my question for Dr. Gonzalez.
I mean,
Yeah,
I think
what's
it's
gay?
I mean, first of all,
To put you on the spot.
I can't
Is
remember.
it accurate? Is this accurate?
I mean, I think it's accurate to a T. I mean,
Minus the lubricant?
yeah, there's not a lot of like references to lubricant. There's no like mention of douching. Like Shane is just like ready to go and bottom. Like
He
the
waited
second
like
time
4
they hang out.
years. Like he waited 4 years to bottom.
Yeah,
Like,
so
it
I guess
wasn't
it was-
Knowing
Look it up.
Shane, he's
Yeah.
just ready to go all the time because he's
He
very
has a
clean.
perfect anus. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
He's never pooped. Shane Hollander does not
It's
poop,
the
Josh.
macrobiotic diet, you guys.
Right, exactly. But I think like we're not used to seeing those images and scenes in popular media like that. That's like pretty graphic, right? When where like they're having like sex from behind and like flipping each other over and like jerking each other off and like that kind of stuff, even though they don't necessarily show like their private parts other than their butts, like we don't even get those innuendos in popular culture. So I think for a lot of people, not just gay men, it is titillating. It's like you're just like, oh, I've never seen this before.
There's actually a presentation at Ishwish looking at women, these were heterosexual people, I think, but women watching porn versus men watching porn. And women tended to identify with the character, like the porn person, and the men didn't. And so I was thinking about that with Heated Rivalry, like we're all having like parasocial relationships with Shane and Ilya. I was talking to a friend who's in a heterosexual relationship like yesterday, and he's like, yeah, that parasocial relationship is taking my wife away from me. She is like so into Heated Rivalry right now. He's like, it's real that people are identifying with these people.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm interested to know, because this is a group of people that I haven't really talked to about it, other than like a couple closer friends of mine that are straight, but like what the reception among straight men have been, because it hits on a lot of points that I think as a gay person, you grow up experiencing, like the sort of innate homoeroticism of like professional sports or like collegiate sports or high school sports, right? Like we're always like showering next to each other. And if you're like a little gay kid, right, like it can be really anxiety provoking, right? Because you're not sort of comfortable with yourself yet. You don't know what to do with all of these feelings. And so that's what I think is like really interesting about the show, is that these guys are not like the Jack character from Will and Grace, right? Or even the Will character from Will and Grace. They are like manly, sports loving, very athletic men. And I'm just curious to know like how like the average heterosexual guy sort of like sees how they fit into this story, you know?
I've talked to a few. I mean, some of them are like, I'm not interested. I don't care. I'm like, but the story, but the cinematography, but the plot. Blah, blah. They're like, nope, don't want to do it. And then I've talked to a couple of straight friends of men, and they're like, oh, yeah, this is great. Like, stereotypically, those men are pretty comfortable with their sexuality, right? So it doesn't mean something that they're
Right.
watching this.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. It's
Let's
interesting.
go around and say, Josh, you already said how you got into it. Rachel, tell us your story, because then we can share how we all kind of got into it. And like, if people listening by this point, this is not individual medical advice, any of this. And there's a lot of spoiler alerts that are going to happen. So spoiler alert from here on out. Watch Heated Rivalry. Push pause. Watch Heated Rivalry.
Should
come
we
back.
introduce ourselves also, or just talk about how we got
introduce
into Heated
yourselves.
Rivalry? Okay, friends. Rachel Rubin. I'm a urologist, just like Kelly Casperson. I did fellowship with the wonderful Ashley Winter and Josh Gonzalez in sexual medicine, and we Heated Rivalry. I thought I was late to the viralness. Like I watched it on the first week of December, and I was like, I'm so late. I missed the boat. I can't believe I'm so late on this. And then I Googled it, and it came out the last week of November. And so I was 1 week into the craziness, and I already thought I was too late, and I just like totally missed the boat. So it goes to the fact that I am an early adopter, but I never think that I am. I'm always think I'm behind. And we watched it on an airplane with my best friend from middle school. We were on an airplane from a girls' weekend, and I was only interested in the sex scenes. So I would take her ear pod, when the hot sex scenes would come up. And then I realized there were feelings, and I had to watch the whole thing. And then I'm excited for Kelly to tell her story, because I asked Kelly and Ashley to watch it for, I don't know, maybe months before they finally did. I'll pass it along. Maybe Ashley, you go next.
Yeah, sure. So for everyone listening, Ashley Winter, I am also a urologist who also specializes in sex. And I did fellowship with Rachel and Josh, and I also had some residency overlap with Josh in New York. And urology, I mean, it's just a small world. Like we all just know each other, right? I mean, we just like, how do you just not know everybody? So in terms of how I heard about it, it was because Kelly and Rachel and I have a group text chain, and that has been going on for like years at this point. And it came up, and I had no idea what it was. And this was sometime maybe the end of January. Rachel,
I
was
bullied
like,
you. You can say it.
"What
I bullied
the
you.
hell how have you not watched this?" And I was like, clearly I am not like I don't I have no idea. And Rachel said, like, watch it alone first. And my husband was on the road for work one weekend. And when my kids went to bed, I watched it. And the first two episodes I was fine with. Like, I thought they were very sexy. But once it got to the third episode and it was all the emotion, I
Mhm.
I was crying desperately, right? I mean, it is just because everything we want, like forbiddenness, longing, feeling seen. These are just the most universal truths of like human connection, and the struggle of these men being gay and in the world that they inhabit is just like the most perfect setup for experiencing those emotions very potently. And I was just, you guys were just right. So that was it.
Beautiful words to hear. You were
Yeah.
right. Some of my favorite.
I feel like Rachel, like she had told me about it. It was probably a good month before I watched it because I very much identify as somebody who doesn't watch television, right? Like, and so to me, I'm like, I need to get a subscription if I have to watch this thing, and then that's annoying because it's like $11 a month, and you have to remember to cancel it. So like, I had all these like massive thought issues that were roadblocking me, and I'm like, television isn't that good, anyways. Like, blah. So it was mostly like a content bias, not so much the subject matter bias. And so I think it just got to the point that Rachel like FOMO'd it so bad. For me,
I full on bullied you.
it got to the
It's
point.
fine.
Okay, so it got to the point where Rachel said, "I won't be your friend anymore."
I think I phrased it as I don't ask a lot of you and I
Yes.
don't recommend a lot of things. And I wouldn't ask if it wasn't fundamentally important to your job as a doctor and someone who says they care about sexual medicine. Like, I actually think this is fundamentally important for us to understand the female and male libido, to understand sex, to understand just libido in general and hotness and animalistic behavior. And I just think it's so delicious. Like, you can't not be a part of it.
Yeah, so she shamed me basically. So that was like, fine, I'll watch it, and I was like, I'm just gonna binge this. I'm just gonna go like I was like, I'll do 3 of them, and then I'll do the other 3. And I got through the first 3, and I was like, and I think Rachel had said like keep going. And so I just did 6 in one day. And it was 2:30 in the morning. I'm texting with Laura, who's my co-creator of the vibrator in Sydney, Australia, and she realizes it's 2:30 in the morning, West Coast time. And she's like, "What are you doing up? It's 2:30 in the morning." And I'm like, "I'm on episode 5 of Heated Rivalry because I take my friendships very seriously." Is what I said.
You're welcome.
Yeah, and so
Yeah.
then I binged it 6 through, went to bed at like 3:30 in the morning, was like, I need to watch this again, but I shouldn't do that. It messes with me when I go to bed at 3:30 in the morning. So then I was like, I need to watch this earlier so I'll get the kids to watch a movie, and then I'll be up in the living room doing this. So I'm like, "Kids, what movie do you want to watch?" And they're like, they wanted to watch Captain Underpants. And so the joke that I didn't tell them is, great, because mom wants to watch 2 captains, no pants.
Amazing. That was like this
I
morning.
didn't, Rachel, when you watched it, they were still releasing them like serially, right? Because when we
No,
started,
by the time they were all out by the time I fully
They were,
watched it.
okay,
But yes,
okay.
but the first, but did you watch it like with your partner? Did like your
Mhm.
husband?
Yeah.
Together. So the first time you watched it was together.
Yes, yeah.
That seems
And
like
then
very spicy.
it was like a little, I think we had our night nurse here because we just had a baby, right? So,
No,
and we're like watching it in the living room, and she's just like walking in and out of the room, and I was just like, I don't know.
Not
It
ideal.
was sort of like, it took me back to like being a kid when you would be like on like HBO or
HBO
Cinemax or
Max,
something.
right?
Yeah, and
Cinemax.
you'd be like, whoa, okay. And then you would like wait to see if your parents were coming, and then you would watch it again. Like, that's what it felt like. So, yeah.
What's the difference between erotica and porn? Like what do you call this show? You say like it's a show about X, Y, and Z on HBO. Like is this less than erotica?
I don't think it's erotica. I think it's romance. I
Mm.
feel like it's very explicit romance. Now, it's interesting because I did go back after I watched the show and listen to the audiobooks, and the audiobooks sound to me like erotica. So I don't, well, the book, right? I mean, it started as a book. So I don't know if any of you guys like listened to it or read the actual book, but it uses this language that you very much, in my mind, associate with these kind of like, beach reads where there was like Fabio on the cover from like the 90s. Like it says like, his muscles were straining against his tight shirt. And that to me is so just erotica, but like, and no shade to like the novels, like,
Yeah.
the novel started this amazing phenomenon, but I think that the way they translated it was, while it was graphic, it was like in this way that was also very restrained and artful. And I think to me that makes, I don't know.
I mean,
I'd
there
love
is
to know
a
what you
lot
guys
of
think.
sexual language, though. Like, they don't beat around the bush. They're just like, are you going to get on your knees on this dirty floor and suck my dick? Like, they're not.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, they're not, they're using pretty explicit language, which again, I think is like refreshing, right? Like, I do agree with you. I think it's like a romance, but not all romance maybe needs to be flowery and lovey-dovey.
Yeah.
I think there's room
It's also
for
amazing how much
explicitness.
they can get through without language at all. Like, there's emotional expressions,
Yes.
the context, like the texting, like it is like we kind of want them to talk it through. We want them to share feelings. Like, we're sitting there screaming. One of the interesting takes that, because Kelly and Mary Claire Haber just send memes all day long of Heated Rivalry. So most of our day is spent watching memes of Heated Rivalry. But one of the takes that was interesting is sort of like women are often the emotional support animals for their straight husbands, right? That they're the ones who have to bring up the emotional conversations. They have to talk through it. And here was sort of two men having to figure out the emotional connection. And like, they do ultimately figure it out, but like, no one has to tell them. No one has to spell it out for them. Like, it's like almost like an equal, they're both equally bad at it and then become equally good at it in a way, which I think is like, we love seeing, because I feel like they get there, even though they're neurodivergent and uncomfortable and traumatized, and, they have life, real life, challenges, but they're able to kind of break through that.
I love that. I think in a lot of heterosexual romances, there's always like a break. Like, there's like a break, somebody gets pushed away, pushes the other one away, and then there's like the resolution. And that doesn't happen in Heated Rivalry. Like, it's a, is it gonna work? Is it gonna work? But there's never this like, bleh, that
But like,
happens.
why in the Olympics? Because I just watched episode 1 and 2 because you made me, and I'm not mad about it. But like, why in the Olympics is he so rude? And like, why does that then cause a break for so long? Like that,
Talking about
I don't.
Ilya?
Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
why? Like,
Because he's an asshole. I mean,
because he
calls him that from the beginning. Like, he is an asshole. He has to learn how to be less of an asshole if he wants to make sure that Shane knows that he cares about him. But that takes the whole show.
many years.
You know what I mean? Like, that's like a part of him, probably from the way he was raised. I mean, you see his family dynamic.
I mean, I would, yeah, that's where I went with it, of like, when you go home for the holidays and like shit comes out of your mouth that you're like, who the fuck am I? Right? Because it's like you are in your high school home, right? Like, you're back at home and like this shit glitches. And like, that's what I think about is like, he's in Russia. He's got this massively overbearing dad. Brother is like strife ridden, right? Plus, he just fucking lost to Latvia.
Latvia.
Latvia. So, like, to me, I'm like, it's yes, it's Ilya, but it's Ilya in Russia, which looks like that. Because Ilya in America is away from all of that. And he's like becoming Ilya in America. But in Russia, it's just full on young, limbic system Ilya.
So is Ilya at the cottage like a different?
That's Canadian Ilya.
Yeah, that's Canadian Ilya.
That's fully evolved Ilya.
See, my difficulty with that is the supposition in the beginning, in those first 2 episodes, was that they were just DTF, right? That it was just casual. And obviously, in the back of their minds, it wasn't. But in my mind, based on the presumption of just it being sex and potentially meaningless, in my mind, that bad experience at the Olympics shouldn't have driven him away. It should have just made him act like a dick, but still use Shane for sex. Like, in my I don't know.
Were they having sex? I guess my question, and you read the book.
No, they didn't have sex yet. But
no. But Ashley read the book, and that's just like Ashley to go above and beyond and out nerd all of us, just for the record. But in like all of the time between, like, was there things happening that like you weren't seeing, or were these just these moments every few months or years that they were getting together? Like, did we see all of their hookups, or did we only see a portion of their hookups?
I had that question too, but now that I've seen the series 4 times, the first episode is literally them months apart and texting. Like, there will go like 6 months and they don't text because they actually make a comment of, we haven't texted in 6 months. You never responded to my texts. Because in the beginning I was like, are they just fucking and we're not seeing all of this? Right. But like, I truthfully think, and that's part of the longing of all of this, is like, it's literally a year and a half before.
But that can't be realistic to gay life, Josh.
I mean, I don't know. I've never been a closeted hockey player.
Not in this world.
At
Not
least
in this
professionally.
world.
I was a closeted football player in high school, but
Really?
Way different.
But-
Way
but
different.
Tell
never
us
went-
more.
but never went professional. Yeah, no, I mean, I didn't come out till I moved to New York. So like it was after college.
Okay, so I have a question for you. There was
college.
a moment when they hooked up and it was so magical and beautiful in the first time, and you saw this facial expression from Shane that was this combination of I'm so happy and so tortured all at the same time, right? Because you can't share it with anybody. There's no one to share it with. You're so you're so like shame and guilted because you don't want to be this way, and yet you're also like so happy because you just lived out your like wildest fantasy with the hottest hockey player ever.
Mm-hmm.
Are you talking about Room 1410, first episode with the blowjobs?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Funny, I didn't like giving my first blowjob that much. Sorry.
You need to put a pin in that one and come back. I'm still stuck in college and football.
Yeah, go back to football.
All right. Well, to speak to what you said, Rachel, I will say I think that a lot of gay men can identify with what Shane went through, meaning that like, that this is somehow right and that this is what you've been waiting for. And also, like you're saying, it's also the first time that you have to fully admit that you're gay to yourself, right? Because up until that point, you've never realized it like with another person. And so there's like shame and joy at the same time. So I think they depicted that really well on the show. And yeah, like I had that experience with like the first person that I hooked up with after coming out in New York. Like I was like, oh, because I had dated girls in high school and college, and like I never felt like I emotionally
Were any of them like
connected.
Rose? I'm just kidding. Keep going. It's amazing.
If I could figure out a way to be into you, we could be maybe soulmates, but there's something about me that will never let that happen. And there's a real tragedy to that. And so I think that the way they depict that is like really, really incredible. But so, yeah, I think most gay men at some point in their life have usually like early on when they're not out, have had a relationship with a woman that is like Shane's relationship with Rose. And it's a really special relationship, but it's also a really heartbreaking relationship.
I remember in that exact moment when she's like, I'm going to force you to be friends with me. And I must be in your life. I was like relieved somehow. Like I was so relieved that she was just still going to be there for him, I guess, because up until this moment, right, his only person he's been able to tell about this is Ilya, and obviously that's just so profoundly wrought. And so this person would still kind of like love him and be there with him in this secret was like profoundly relieving. I couldn't really explain it.
And she came across very strong with that. Like she kind of forced the like, listen, this is a friendship that's gonna happen, right?
Yeah.
But had she not done that, he doesn't have in him what he needed to develop that relationship. Like she kind of had to like be like, we're friends now a lot in order to actually make that work. And then clearly, by the end of the episodes, they're texting and he's sharing things. I don't know if he actually shared that Ilya was coming to the cottage with Rose. They were texting though when they were there.
Yeah.
We're skipping ahead.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I know. We're skipping
You got to
ahead.
keep us on track, Kelly. You got to keep us on track.
Keep us back on episode 1. So episode 1, they meet. Because it was good to watch it again because they were like, when did this actually start happening? And they're like summer before rookie year. And so to watch it again and be like, okay, when did this actually start happening? They were actually at. It was like an international cup.
Yeah.
So they meet for the first time December 2008, and then that summer is the draft. And so Shane is the number 2 pick. Rozanoff is like kind of rubbing him with his hands. I noticed like Rozanoff was actually like, number 1 with his hand, but was kind of rubbing on Shane's hand. And you see Ilya's dad for the first time and he calls him lazy. And like the cinematography of the draft scene of like them seeing each other, like there's the cinematography of this entire show is insanely powerful and so good.
I was going to say when you think of the first When you look at the first episode, I think probably one of the most artful scenes is that one in the shower, because you have to like navigate that so exquisitely to show that there was, right? Because if you don't show that perfectly, it could be somebody basically assaulting the other person, right? Because if like you're just in a locker room and somebody doesn't consent to see you stroking yourself, that's creepy. And how you navigate showing this progression from just showering and trying to be kind of avoidant in this space to demonstrating consensual arousal is very hard, and they did it without actually showing penises.
Mm-hmm.
I was actually astounded by how hard that was to do, because in the book, which I recently listened to, they're saying like, before Ilya starts stroking himself, like he sees that Shane is becoming aroused, right? And so that's like aroused with not wanting to be aroused, but
Mm-hmm.
uncontrollably becoming aroused. And that's kind of that way you consent, like kind of consenting, right? And moving it to this next level. And they have to not be able to show that and make that progression, which again, like, it's interesting, you, Josh, talking about being gay in these spaces that can be so uncomfortably intimate,
Mm-hmm.
but are supposed to not be. I
Yeah.
thought that was one of the most fascinating things about the first episode.
Yeah. And it goes back to kind of what you were saying, even with the actors, like so much of that back and forth was through their eyes, right? And their gaze and their sort of facial expressions. There's not a lot of talking that happens in that scene.
No.
And
There's actually
so,
a
yeah,
prolonged silence
yeah,
in that
Yeah.
scene.
yeah,
Same as
yeah.
the scene in the gym, right? Where they're like literally ridiculously bike riding in this heavy breathing moment of like foreplay, right? It's like this big foreplay scene, and like they're not speaking, but like there's that character of like their facial expressions. Like there's the music character, there's the cinematography, but like just so much of the show is just their facial expressions that are masterful.
I just always wonder, like, how does Ilya know where Shane is? Like, was the bike? I mean, clearly the biking scene there. It's late at night. It's after the draft. They're in different hotels. They didn't even talk during the draft. Cocktail hour, and it's like maybe that one was a fluke. Like maybe it was like, oops, we were just both working out at 11:30 p.m. or whenever it was. But then, like, later on in the show, Ilya finds Shane down at the beach, right? Like Ilya's like finding where Shane is. He found him in the bathroom after the award
Ah.
season.
Yeah.
Do you think
Yeah.
he
So
has
like,
do you think he has a tracker on him? Like
Oh,
a
I don't want it to
find
be
do,
creepy.
do you think he has like
I'm just
find
saying, like,
find
this
my
guy's
iPhone?
paying attention to Shane.
It's like
As aloof as
KGB.
he comes across, it's like this guy knows where this guy is. And in the first
my God.
episode, after they shoot their hockey commercial, Shane's talking to his mom about having to wear Reeboks, right? And then he goes into the shower. So it's like he didn't even go straight to the shower. And Shane's like, or Ilya's like following him. I think the other thing about the shower scene in episode 1 is like we're never in the shower when we're like men are showering with each other, right? And so to watch this happen, it's so foreign to us. We're like, what are the rules? How does this go down? Does this ever happen? Like, it's just
Yeah. That's so funny. I never thought about
such an
that.
interesting thing for us because
Tell
we
us,
don't
Josh, what is
have
group
any
showering
context.
like for dudes?
Well, so okay, so when I played high school football in our like home, like my high school's locker room, it was like the most homoerotic shower you could imagine. It was like one pole. Well, there was 4 of them, but it was a pole with 4 spouts around. So you would shower actually looking at each
people.
other. Yeah,
That
and
is
so
crazy.
and then when we played away games, they were sort of the showers that you see in the show where they're sort of all on a wall, but there's no dividers. It's just one big room. Um, and like I remember when I played high school football, there was this guy who was straight back then, who like, I mean, you're 15, like the wind blows and you get aroused, right? Like I don't think if you get partially aroused, like in a situation like that, it necessarily means you're gay. But anyway, he started to, I guess, become somewhat aroused and he got like hazed for it. He basically like people were
Ugh.
like making fun of him and hitting him and calling him gay and like all the slurs associated with being gay. And like I don't even think he was gay. He was just like a 15-year-old guy, you know what I mean? Showering like naked in front of a bunch of other people. It's weird. I guess like guys, because that's just the way that we like do gym and like grow up. I guess I never really thought about like that women don't like bathe next to each other.
I was just thinking, like, I was an athlete and we never showered at the same time. Like, it wasn't like something, I don't know.
What was your sport, Rachel?
I was a gymnast. We did not shower together.
I didn't know you were a gymnast.
I don't think I knew that either.
Do you
I
have
was
excellent
really
balance
good.
to this day.
No, but I was state champion in 1997.
You were a state champion gymnast?
In
Yeah.
what category?
So
what
I won the
event?
floor exercise, and we were team champions in 1997.
Wow.
Yes, I
Amazing.
was very good at gymnastics, and then I broke my back and had to quit.
You broke your back?
Yeah, stress fractures. Anyway, not that interesting. I'd rather talk about gay hockey sex, but yes, I had a spinal fusion at age 14.
Gosh.
Age 14? I'm just
Yeah.
repeating
Oh my
everything
God.
Rachel's saying at this point.
But thank God, because then I went into academic things, and then I became all of your best friends. Like, I put
Well,
my
that's
not what I-
intensity.
Meant to
I
be.
put my intensity to sport, my hyper focus from sport into penis surgery.
There's a lot
perhaps.
of like, I don't want to say like, I would say previous like nearly professional ballerinas who are surgeons. Like it is a thing to like
mean,
be that
Makes
intense.
sense.
My best friend was a college gymnast. Like she's a surgeon, a breast surgeon.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's
Meticulous.
yeah.
She's better than me in every way, just so you know, for the record.
So going back to season 1, they are drinking water. They're sharing a water bottle
Mm.
after they did some biking. My gut on this is that Ilya already knows what he's doing. Like Ilya's been
Yeah.
around the block. He knows he
He's the
wants Shane.
seducer. He's seducing.
He's the seducer.
He's the alpha. He's
Yeah.
the
alpha,
dom.
yes.
And I think
He's
Shane's
the,
clueless.
he's the top. Let's just be
Okay,
honest.
so Tom, okay, can we talk about this? Actually, this is actually interesting because I think a lot of people listening, or no one's actually going to be listening, but if anyone is listening, I think people.
I have a big podcast, Rachel.
I know, but this is now like
This is
many
your 7.
minutes. This is 34 minutes in, and
They're
we
gonna
barely
fucking
talked
love
about
this
anything
episode.
yet. Okay, so can you talk us through tops, bottoms, alpha, doms? Ilya is this alpha. He tells him what to do. It's so hot. He just bosses him around, but it's also not in a dangerous, creepy sort of, it's in a very consensual way. So talk our audience, because I don't know about all of those interactions that we see.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it makes sense in the context of the relationship because I think Ilya can sense from Shane that he needs to be sort of helped out of the closet, whereas Ilya, like it's implied, right, that he's bisexual, that he's hooked up with men, he hooked up with his like coach's son, right? So he has this experience, and I think that he takes on this role of being the dominant person in the relationship because he knows that that's in a way what an athlete like Shane needs to explore this side of him. That's the sense that I get. And then I just say top because like from the beginning, he's the one that's like penetrating Shane. There is like a reference in episode, I think in the first episode actually, where they're making like bets, right? And he's like, if you win this, then, or if I win this, I get to fuck you and do this. And he's like, well, what do I get if I win? He's like, the same thing. So he's like offering to bottom for Shane, but I don't think that it comes to pass.
Are tops always tops their entire life? Is this like
No.
Okay.
And I think like
it's like relationship dependent or like phases of the moon dependent?
I think it's individual. I think that there is the rigidity of those categories is kind of silly.
People talk about them like they're a fixed state.
But and some people are very like, I only top. I think if you probably polled most gay men, they would fall under the verse category. They might have a preference, like they might like prefer to top more, prefer to bottom more, but like depending on the relationship they're in or the sexual situation that they're in, that they may try the opposite.
Are we in a safe space where there's no stupid questions? Asking for a friend. So heterosexual people learn how to have sex by like Hollywood and then like parents porn that they might happen to find. And I would say Hollywood, parents porn, first boyfriend. And that's not setting anybody up for success. Like women hardly have orgasms. Let's be honest, right? So our sex ed sucks. What's gay sex ed?
0. Gay sex ed is like porn that you watch when you're younger, trying to like figure it out the first time you have anal sex, and then learning from your friends how to like make that better. Like I think in the gay community there is like once you are like Like the first time is like never going to be good because there's just like a lot of prep that is involved. But I think gay men in general, like, teach each other how to be better
Well, you
tops
got a
or
leg up.
be
You
better
got a leg
bottoms.
up on the women for that one. Women don't talk
Yeah.
to each other about it.
That's true.
It's kind of this like assumed expertise that nobody has.
Well, I always thought
Interesting though.
No, go ahead, Ashley.
Well, I lost my virginity to a guy who was a virgin, so both of us didn't know what we were doing. Like literally, he couldn't get in me, and I remember we thought maybe I didn't have a vagina, and I was 20. Like this is so, but like so what?
Ashley, you are not broken. I promise.
Actually,
it
he's like,
worked out,
obviously the
obviously.
problem is
But-
no vagina.
I
My
was
vagina
I have
fell
like
out.
a blind ending vulva. Like
I thought you were a Barbie, Ashley. I did think you were a Barbie when I first met you.
But like, I mean, what? Like, if you have two gay virgins, like that must be so hard. I mean,
Mhm.
obviously, you know you have an anus because you pooped. So I guess
Yeah,
it's like,
but then there's poop involved. So right, so like it's
Yeah.
if you're not, that's the thing is like
Yeah.
that's I think that is missing a little bit from the interactions between Shane and Elia, that like we were saying earlier, like Shane is ready to go, which like I'm not sure that like in the real world someone like Shane, who was like a closeted athlete, would like have known to like anally douche before having sex with a 9-inch dick, which Ilya supposedly has, right? So that's also like not something that like most people can just jump into with anal sex.
Where's 9 inches? This is what, 8.5 piece of paper?
Yeah.
it's like,
That's
have you guys
probably
seen
not
Wait,
real.
wait, hold up the other side of the piece of paper. That you
No,
held up the
no,
11-inch side.
That's
It's-
11 inches.
Yeah, okay, sorry.
have you guys seen the new Game of Thrones spinoff?
No.
There's like a humongous penis in it. Like,
Wait, so can we go
Like,
back? So a lot of the listeners
humongous,
are
anyway.
going to want to know about what does douching look like? What are the poop conversations like? Because women tend to be very uncomfortable talking about poop at all, let alone in a sexual setting. And so there are a lot of anally curious people who are listening and wondering, is that a pathway of pleasure?
Yeah.
And so what kind of conversations can you have for our listeners about
I mean, I think yes, everyone should try it because there's definitely a lot of nerve endings down there. It can be incredibly pleasurable for any type of body. I would say, you don't need to go crazy with douching. So douching basically is using water or some sort of solution to kind of rinse out the fecal material from the rectum. It's something that like gay men learn over time, I think. And there are people who prefer to bottom or identify solely as bottoms who have like a whole system down. Like I have a very good friend who has like a regimented system. Like he's going to bottom, like he's changing his diet the day of, he's douching with a certain amount of water. He does like belly rubs. He's got this whole like system down. That's not most people. And honestly, it doesn't probably have to be that involved. Like you really just need to use enough solution or water to clean out the rectum, which is not that long of a tube. If you use too much, you can actually, and it goes past the sigmoid, you can actually cause stool from the colon to come down into the rectum, and then it gets to be a big old mess. So I would say tips for bottoming for the first time would be, just use a little bit of water to clean out stool from the rectum.
What does that
It's a
mean? Are you
little-
using like a Fleet's Enema syringe? Are you using like
so it's like a
okay.
bulb syringe.
Okay.
A bulb
But you
syringe.
can get shower attachments too, yeah.
They do have shower attachments, but then you have to be careful, right? Because if it's shooting too much water up, then that stuff's going to come down. So I think being too aggressive with it can cause more problems than if you just do like a single bulb. And then lube is like your best friend, right? Like we talk about lube all the time for penovaginal sex, but when you're having anal sex, it's a lot tighter, a lot more can tear. There's a lot of friction that needs to be accounted for. And so using
Nothing's self-lubricating.
nothing is there's a little bit of like mucus down there, but it's not gonna be enough to have sex. So silicone lube is often better for anal sex because it lasts longer and it provides more of a slippery surface. Anyway.
The first lube I ever used consistently was gun oil, which is very popular in the gay community, and I got that from my gay friend. He's like, Kelly, this is what you need.
Yeah.
And I'm like, obviously silicone.
Yeah.
Obviously superior.
Yeah.
And I think people who are like,
go ahead.
I was just going to say, I mean, to people like listening, thinking about this, right? I mean, it's also like, you don't have to have full on, penis and anus penetration to like explore eroticism around the anus, right? You can use fingers, you can use tongue, you can use like toys, obviously, and
Like
as somebody,
Shane. Shane has a toy, right? He talks about
yeah,
it.
right.
We don't know what color it is.
We don't know the color.
And we also know he called it a thing. I have a thing.
Right.
Right. He
Right?
has a thing.
Like,
yeah.
this
how is
difficulty
anybody supposed to
talking
know what a
about-
thing is?
I have a thing. Well, people
Mhm.
always use innuendo, right? Like people, like couples have
Yeah.
all their like language of like, you know, what do you
Yeah.
call your period? What do you call masturbation? What do you call sex? What do you call, right? Everyone, you know, it's like you have this language, this like hidden language. You can't use actual grown-up words.
Right.
In honoring the sex ed component of this podcast, what is the average male penis length erect? It's like 4.5 or 5 inches.
5.5, I think.
It's 5.5.
Yeah, it's like 5'3"
I
to
remember in
5'5". Half of the paper.
Rachel folds her paper. In the pocketbook guide to urology, remember that? It
Mhm.
fit in your pocket. They had a graph of average penis size in there. I remember that.
Really? I don't remember that.
I remember showing somebody that and be like, see, you're above average. You're fine.
I mean, I think what you can learn from this TV show is that, at least to women, probably the really nicely defined ass size is really hot, maybe more important than the penis size.
I didn't realize how important it was actually.
Yeah.
A good butt?
Like a butt.
Butts are very important.
Gays have
Yeah.
known this for years.
I know. They always have the best butts. Like,
I actually saw a comedian
LA
talking
also,
about that
you know.
recently. He was like, where do straight men get off having nice asses? What are they going to do with that?
it's so funny, actually. So before this, filming today, since I am in the office with pelvic floor physical therapists, I was like, hey, what is your, like, when you watch this show through your PT lens, what did you take away from it? And my colleague was like, they have very pronounced anterior pelvic tilt. And she was like, it was like, that is so interesting. And she's like,
They have
yeah,
like
I
their
couldn't
little
stop
bellies,
thinking
their
about
little
it.
bellies stuck out. I noticed that
Yeah.
a lot.
Yeah, yes, and the butt is like lifted, and they're
Yeah.
doing this like thing, and I was like, that is so. But it probably also made their butts look better. But it was like, but yeah, that might be more important than penis size.
I haven't had an intimacy coordinator on the podcast yet, but it's
You
a goal. It's a
should,
goal for me.
for
I just
sure.
bought a book from somebody's. I actually met somebody who was married to an intimacy coordinator when I was in New York for the book tour. So I'm like, I need to have an intimacy. For people who don't know, intimacy coordinators are the people that television shows and movies hire to have on set to make sure everybody's like appropriately clothed as they can be and comfortable with whatever, because this is all acting. Right. And so that's what an intimacy coordinator does, which I think they're pretty new to the industry.
Yeah, I was going to say they've only
Mhm.
existed for like 10 years.
Yeah, they're pretty new.
Yeah, this is like post Me Too,
Probably,
Mhm.
probably
which
to
is kind of
prevent
wild
egregious.
because, like,
Mhm.
yeah,
Okay,
like yeah,
Okay, one of the first sex scene, right, when they're talking, when they're, the first blowjob, he does not ejaculate in his mouth, right? Like
Room
Ilya,
1410.
right, in 1410, Ilya ejaculates outside of Shane's mouth, which I think is just lovely, like a lovely gesture.
Mhm.
And then he himself swallows. And I also think that is an incredible gesture. And Shane says this thing, you didn't have to, right?
Yeah.
Sort of like this embarrassing, like you didn't have to do that. This is gross. This is disgusting. I can't believe you did this. You didn't have to. And his answer was like, I don't mind. Like, I don't mind. But like, just like every woman, I think, has sort of experienced like this feeling, like right when he ejaculates and he's like gets up to leave as a joke, right? Like this, like,
Yeah.
well, I'm done, so goodbye. And I feel like every woman was like,
Mhm.
that's a familiar feeling. Like, I've been in this situation. And then Shane's like, what the hell? And he's like, oh, you think I'm an asshole? And then he goes and then he swallows. Again, pushing him out of his comfort zone, but in a consensual way that is not rapey and like just really like almost like, no, I want to do this. I want to be here. I think we talk about that women so often do not want oral sex. They feel like they're gross. They feel like they're disgusting. They're like, oh, it's been 2 minutes. I didn't orgasm. So, we can be done now. And sort of this idea of like, take as long as you want, ladies. Like, don't, like, they're happy to be there. They're happy to be in the room. They're happy, being proud of sort of that experience. And I think that showed it in a way that women were like, I'm curious about this.
Yeah. And do we think I read that as like Shane wasn't ready to swallow his load. Like I did.
No, I read it as Ilya respected him enough to sort of not do that.
Okay.
From the book, it was that Shane wasn't ready to do
Okay,
it.
fair.
I mean, he's brand new at
He's
all
got
of this.
and he's got a lot of shame. I mean, he's got to get over that.
Got a lot
He's
of
brand
shame.
new, but as soon as he walks in the door after like kissing for 2 seconds, he goes right for the BJ, right? Like
he's
ready.
been waiting a long time.
He's ready to go, like very ready to go.
Yeah, totally.
He knew how to unbuckle that pant buckle.
I think the other like thing that the film did is they showed them both being interviewed for hockey, right? And Ilya's this like cocky, I didn't say 40, I said 50 shots. Like he's super cocky. But then they show Shane, number one, Shane speaking 2 languages on his interview.
So hot.
And he's so confident, right? Like they really allow, like he's not this like passive, let Ilya just take all, like he's a very confident man. And he kind of gets to be not that at this. I don't know. I just thought it was beautiful how they showed both of them being interviewed for hockey and showed them being such different people.
Well, I think that's also what is so compelling about it, because many people want to be a confident, strong, independent person in their life, but then in their intimate world, they maybe want to be dominated or like slightly dominated, or, you know, there is such a duality to so many people. Typically, when you're watching a movie or romance or whatever, it's this like, right, passive, feminine, accepting character who is also that way in an intimate situation, and that is like not real, right? It's not real that that's the only way we can be existing between our public and our private existence. And I think that actually, I mean, I know it goes for both men and women. I mean, I've definitely physically been with hetero men who like very much wanted to be kind of, you know, the less dominant like person, and it was weird because as a female you're like not really, I don't know, it's not what you're socialized to do, right? But like you realize that there are people that like even hetero men who like crave that, you know, to be controlled in a erotic environment.
I think you see that a lot in the modern world because like women will be like, am I still a feminist if I want to be taken and dominated and, you know, kind of actually have like a power play in the bedroom? And all the sex experts are like, yeah, of course, like still go be the badass you everywhere else. And it's okay to play this role in the bedroom.
Well, I think the act of choosing that role is the feminist part of it, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Nice. Okay, so we're wrapping up season 1. Here's the question. When does Scott Hunter start to know? Because what's happening, we've had room 1410. 4 months later, we're in Nashville, the All-Star game. We got the feet touching under the table, right? And so they do the speed shoot off, you know, puck thing. And so Scott Hunter's watching them all. Ilya skates by Scott and Shane and says 1 2 2 1 right next to Scott Hunter.
Yeah.
So having watched it multiple times, my gut is Scott's known for a very long time. What do you think? What does Scott Hunter actually know about this relationship?
I don't think he knows anything.
Yeah,
I
don't
think
know.
He's like, I think he's a dork. Like he doesn't.
You think he's clueless?
I think he.
Yeah,
I think
I
he's
agree
a
with that.
very aware gay man.
He goes for Kip, so I don't think he's. I mean, he went for the smoothie guy, so I don't know how. Like,
I think he's also
Sure.
also wrapped up in his own sort of like shame and coming out narrative that I'm not sure that he has space in his head to like worry about what's going on with Shane and Ilya.
But fast forward a couple of episodes, I forget now what episode it is, when Scott's playing against Shane and Shane is kind of a dick to him afterwards. And he's like, oh, you talk like him now too.
I just saw that. It's like, I think beginning of episode 3.
Yeah.
Well, because he does make some comment about, he calls him
your boy,
your boy. Yeah, your boy Rosanov. And he's like, what do you mean by that? He's like, I didn't mean anything by that.
Like, I think Scott Hunter knows. Let's vote. Who thinks Scott Hunter knows?
I think he knows, actually. I sort of think he knows, too. Can you tell me what's the name of the really boring, actually I do want to talk about this, but we could talk about it in season 2, the really boring friend that every scene is so boring with the wife, and she's like, my wife wants to cook for you, and like kiss all the kids in the museum scene. Who's the hetero friend?
What is his name?
The vanilla guy.
He's so boring.
Whose friend is he?
You don't even remember because he's so boring.
Shane's friend on the
it
Metros.
starts with like a K or something.
And he is the wife, and he's like, my wife wants to cook for you and be the first person to
Yes.
cook for you. And then he's got all the kids, and he swears. He's a swear jar.
What is that guy's name? I
But
don't
like the
remember.
whole, but it's sort of like embarrassing because it like is this play on like the straight man and like the straight man friend, and just how boring his life is and how boring he is and how like I don't know. I just like every scene I just want to fast forward of like
Well,
it's so
and I mean, to
boring.
that point, like, he's pretty, I would say, if you asked him, are you good friends with Shane? He would be like, yes, we're good friends. He comes over for dinner. And yet Shane's keeping it hidden very well. But like, and he does ask about a former girlfriend. Like, he does try to kind of get to know Shane, but Shane just kind of stays.
Is he the same guy who always shares the hotel room with Shane?
Yeah.
Or is
Oh,
that
that's
a
a good
different
question.
guy?
I think so. Yeah.
Which
I
my
think so. And he
question
knows.
is, you're like, I've seen the inside of your houses. You're professional hockey players. You have money. Why is your team making you
are they
fly,
sharing?
coach,
Sharing rooms?
and share rooms? Like, they only did that for the television show.
Of course, especially because whenever they're at these like award ceremonies and when it's convenient and they need to hook up, they all have their own hotel rooms. But then like,
Penthouse hotel rooms.
yeah, exactly.
that
And then
scene
half
is
the
so
time they're
good.
sharing like a regular like double bedroom. Like,
Should we talk before we finish episode 1? Should we talk about like the final scene with them and like
Did
the
nobody look up that guy's
tuxedos?
name?
Oh
I
no,
tried
Because
to,
he's
and
so
then my-
boring. No, nobody cares. He's so boring.
Hetero friend. Sorry, Josh. What do you
no.
want
We
to
should talk about like the scene on the roof, right, when they're in tuxedos, and that's the end of episode 1, right?
Yep. Okay, yeah. We'll wrap with that. Okay, so we're in Vegas at the award show. Shane wins Rookie of the Year. Take it away,
Yeah.
Josh.
No, I just thought like I don't know. That scene kind of made me kind of sad. I don't know.
It made
Like
me
they-
very uncomfortable.
Yeah. Hayden? Or
Hayden.
Hayden.
Okay.
Hayden.
Yeah, I mean, I just think like there's so many times. It's the first time in their relationship where it seems like it's not going to work out to me. Like they're kind of like, I don't know. What do you guys think?
I think Ilya in his head, he's headed back to Russia
Mm-hmm.
right after that. So again, he's kind of going back into his limbic system. Russia, fuck it. Nobody cares about me. Because he says to Shane, it's not all about you.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
kind of a dick thing to say because he just won Rookie of the Year. Like,
Speaking of being a dick, is every time Ilya loses, so he loses the Rookie of the Year, he loses the Olympics, like every time he loses, he becomes like a jerk,
Asshole.
an asshole. And like, it's like, because he knows he's going to get the beating from his father and like he's going to get like Mother Russia's mad at him. And like, and then he takes it out on Shane every single time. And that scene is so sad because Shane just wanted Ilya to be there and to like be proud of him and to like be happy, just like the way when he wins the cup, like Shane is sitting there smiling, with tears in his eyes, and he's so happy. And like Ilya can't be happy for other people because he's selfish and traumatized and gonna get beaten by Mother Russia.
Mm-hmm.
yes. I think that scene.
Self-preservation.
Definitely.
Sorry.
I think that scene is a power dynamic. Like, I saw such a power exchange back and forth. Like, Shane comes into Ilya's space and starts, like, kind of drunk bullying him because he did just take a bunch of shots with Scott and team, right? So, like, he does kind of come up a little drunk bullying, and Ilya's not in the mood. And then Shane, like, sexy advances. Ilya turns him down. And then he does the handshake. Like, there's so much power move. And then Ilya kisses him, and then Shane gets mad. Like, the whole thing is just like, fuck. Nobody's like getting on top of anybody there, not metaphorically
Unfortunately.
and metaphorically. So do you guys remember when you watched that episode for the first time, like when that kind of left you with the cliffhanger where you're like,
I've seen it too many times to
I know, I
remember
don't
what it
remember
used
now.
to be like.
I didn't take notes the first time.
The first 2 episodes back to back, so I didn't have any
So did I.
feeling of like it's
Yeah.
sitting with me because I just
Yeah.
jumped into the next one. So
I did the same.
yeah. I mean, I know we'll get to it later, but definitely of all the episodes that sat with me the most was like the one that ends at the nightclub, and we can get to that later, but like that was like insane. Like I was so amped up after that, and like then I put it down
That
for the
might be
night
the
and I
best
could not
scene.
sleep.
That might be TV show ever.
Ever. And when I rewatch it, every single millisecond of that scene is fucking genius.
The other
Yes.
day, my 7-year-old was going, all the things she says, all the things she says. And I was like, how do you know that song? He goes, Mom, you've been singing it nonstop for weeks.
That's so awesome.
That's amazing.
All right, well, let's wrap episode 1. We'll cut it so we can go pee because we're all urologists and bladder care is very important. But to the listeners, thanks for sticking with us season 1. I mean, I don't know. We're going to have a blast season, episode 1 through 6. So watch it if you haven't yet, because buckle up. It's my podcast. I'm going to do 6 episodes on this. So thank you, everybody, for joining us. And we'll talk soon for season 2 named Olympians.
Episode 2.
Episode 2. Yes, episode 2. Olympians.
Dun, dun, dun.